Moving on from the basic stuff, I thought this time I'd cover the subject of motion tracking. This mechanism can be used to modify moving objects in a variety of situations, such as attaching text, blurring certain areas, etc. In this tutorial, I'll be using a short video of 4 people walking. I'll be attaching a name label to one of them and putting another under witness protection. With the media event imported into the media panel, I'll first convert it into a composite shot. To do this, I select it, right-click and select Make Composite Shot from the context menu. You can alternatively use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+M. The following dialog box will want you to choose where the composite shot properties will come from. In this case, you can leave things as default and click OK. This will open up the composite shot editor. With this particular media event, the first frame is blank, so I'll trim that frame away. Bear with me while I do that. I now need to add a tracker to the event, so I'll expand it. In the list of properties, you'll see one called Tracks, with a plus sign icon. Clicking this icon adds a tracker to the event and adds the track panel to the workspace. It also adds the layer preview panel. I'm going to be tracking the man on the right, so it's good practice to name the tracker accordingly. I'll rename it to the man's name. Let's call him Simon. You'll see on the layer preview panel a green square with a red square inside it. This is the tracking point. The red square surrounds the area to be tracked. The green square surrounds the area where the tracker will look for the tracked area from one frame to the next. The size of the green frame will depend upon the speed of the area being tracked. With fast movement, the green frame needs to be large enough to encompass the tracked area as it moves. If it's too small, the tracker will lose it and won't be able to pick it up again. Both frames can be resized with the corner sizing handles, and they can be moved together by clicking in the red frame and dragging. The selection tool must be selected to move the tracker. So I can now place the tracker over the area I want to track. If you need to move the frame, hold the right mouse button down and move the mouse. I want to attach a text label to this guy here, so I'll set the tracker on part of him that won't be obscured. Scrubbing the timeline through the event will help me decide where to place the tracker. the label to move with his body, so a good place to attach the tracker is the knot in his tie. When choosing what to track, make sure that it's well defined with good contrast. I know that the movement of his tie is slow, so I can leave the green frame's size as default. Now that everything is set up, if the playhead is at the start of the event, I can go to the track panel and click the track forward icon. But before I do, it's worth mentioning some of the contents of the track panel. The type drop-down has two options. The default option is what's wanted for our purpose, where only one position is to be tracked. The second option will track 2 points and allows an object's scale and rotation to be tracked, as well as its position. The 4 track control icons allow forward or reverse tracking. The 2 outer icons allow single frame tracking. The method can be one of 2 options. The default option will suit most occasions. The Options button opens a dialog where the method can be tweaked if necessary. The settings in this dialog are way beyond the scope of this tutorial. I may give more detail in a future one, but for now my advice would be to leave these alone. I'll deal with the grayed out section shortly. As tracking takes place, you can monitor it on the layer preview. Now that tracking is complete, we can move on to the second part of the track panel. The Purpose drop-down has a default setting of Transform, which is what's wanted for our purpose. The second option is Stabilized, which is used with 2 tracking points to stabilize shaky video. I may deal with this option in a later tutorial, but basically it does the same as the motion lock effect I described in episode 5. The X and Y checkboxes need to be checked for our purpose. The rotation and scale checkboxes are only enabled for double point tracking. The layer drop-down will contain a list of composite shot layers that the tracking data can be applied to. At the moment there are no layers other than the media event in the composite shot, so I need to add one. I'll click the new layer icon and select Point. It's a good idea to get into the habit of renaming the various layers. It can make tasks a lot easier when a composite shot contains lots of layers. Now I can go to the layer drop down and select Simon's tie. To apply the tracking data to the point layer, click Apply. As I want some text to follow the tracking data, I need to add a text layer. For the text label, I'll simply type Simon. The text is now in a position where I want it to follow the tracking, so I need to parent it to the point layer. To do this, I click the drop-down arrow at the right side of the text layer entry and select Simon's tie. After caching, I'll play the event. Now, say I want to put the other man under witness protection and pixelate his head. I can do this by tracking his tie and applying the tracking data to another point layer. I can then create a pixelated circle the size of his head and apply it to the new point layer. I'll call this point layer Unknown Man's Tie. So I need to track the unknown man's tie. I'll click the Insert Tracker icon again and call the tracker Unknown Man's Tie. I now position the tracker, initiate tracking, then apply the tracking data to the unknown man's tie point layer. I can now proceed with the witness protection. First, I'll click the Add Effects icon in the Media Events properties. In the search bar, I'll search for witness and select it. You'll see two circles in the viewer. The outer circle is the limit of the effect, and the inner broken circle defines where the feathering of the effect starts. There are a number of parameters for the witness protection effect, but I'm just going to mention one of them. The preset drop-down contains a list of presets that should suit most occasions. Fine-tuning of these can be carried out if necessary. For now, I'm going to use the pixelated medium preset. As I want the pixelation to follow the unknown man's head, I can select the position section and select the unknown man's tie point layer from the Use Layer list. The circle can be resized now and moved in the viewer, so I'll do that now. Make sure that the circle is large enough to accommodate any lateral movement of the man's head. After caching, I'll play the event. Okay, so that's a reasonably detailed demonstration of how motion tracking is achieved using Hitfilm. Any number of moving objects can be tracked. Each set of tracking data can be applied to its own dedicated point layer. Individual text layers or effects can then be parented or applied to the appropriate point layers. It's worth repeating that with a project that has numerous trackers and layers, it's important to uniquely name them. Navigating the layer structure then becomes so much easier. I'm not sure what the subject of the next tutorial will be, but join me anyway. Until then, bye for now.